Hello, guys. I am coming to you from my couch today. I'm a little sick, and so I'm sorry I am a little worse for the wear. But I wanted to come on and give you a really interesting example of one of the things we talked about in our chapter summaries last week. I'm gonna just like get myself all cozy here with my blanket. So I'm really, really impressed with the excellent chapter summaries that you guys did last week. Well done. The effort that you guys are putting into having a good conversation with each other and doing this work well is astounding. I'm so pleased about that. Thank you so much. I and many of you talked about the part of the chapter that talked about how science communicators are often, or it's possible that some topics may come back to bite the science communicators in the butt. They are themselves vulnerable when they have specific topics to discuss. Now, I started my career in the blogging space. One of the first gigs that I got was a blog at Scientific American, which is a magazine in the US. And it was an incredibly valuable position to me at the time. Blogging was kind of just coming onto the scene. And the reason that I got a position there at Scientific American is because I had started my own blog with Bondar blog, kind of how I got my career going. And they noticed it and they really loved it and they wanted me to blog for them. So I did. However, at that time, I noticed that there were, even back then, this was maybe, I'm dating myself, this is maybe around 2012, 2013. But even back then, there was controversy around some topics, mostly to do with CRISPR, gene editing, even climate. Ugh, sad that climate has always been a controversial issue, but also women's studies, misogyny. It was probably a lot before Me Too, and Me Too was coming. And I do think that communicating online and social media had a lot of great visibility impacts that led to the Me Too movement and probably has also led to the emergence of transgender people being able to, you know, reach critical mass in a way. And anyways, I'm digressing a little bit, but the point I wanted to make was that back in those days there were some controversial topics. I I was covering film, filmmaking and television and science, but also short videos. I've always been somebody who's a big fan of the short video format, and I think in SciComm it's a really important one. And also, I was involved in some series early on in my career about the evolution of sexual behavior. And so I did a lot of short video in that area as well. Wild Sex is one of the first series that I did that really put my name on the mark or on the, well, I don't know, whatever you want to call, however you want to say that. It was just a really great project. Now, I remember the people getting all kinds of not hate mail, but like really comments that were aggressive and comments that did actually sometimes threaten the personal safety of my colleagues. And I thought, oh God, that is brutal. Like it wasn't something that I had thought about before. Now, fast forward an entire decade, over a decade later, like I said, the Wild Sex series is a series I made in South Africa. I wrote it and hosted it, and you should totally go check it out. It's called Wild Sex. It was made by a company called Earth Touch, and all the episodes are still available on their website or wherever on their website. It was a very successful series. It was sort of one of the first biology series that really swept the internet. I'm super proud to have been a part of it. And it was, I mean, I think a couple of the reasons why it was so successful, it was excellent. Hello. I use sex as a topic, but not for gratuitous reasons. I mean, literally, sex is the thing that showcases evolutionary diversity. I'm just going to let my dogs out. And sex is so important to evolution of behavior and structures. And, it's such a great way to talk about all kinds of things. Anyway, I remember back in my early days that I kind of almost felt like less than because my colleagues were getting, hateful comments and all kinds of controversy, and I wasn't. And I thought, well, is nobody reading mine? Like, how come I don't get any hate mail? But oh boy, I did not realize my hate mail was coming. Okay, so like I said, fast forward a decade, I go to run in a by-election in the Chilliwack School District. Why do I do this? Well, I'm a science communicator. I've always had a lot of traveling gigs, a lot of things that take me all over the world. But the pandemic happened in 2020, 2021. And well, sudden, like overnight, all of my contracts were simply gone, right? Because the world did not know how to handle this. We weren't allowed to travel anywhere. I was supposed to be in LA a bunch, and there was just no, it was gone, nothing. So I thought, okay, well, this by-election seat came up, my name came up, blah, blah. And community members suggested that I should run in this by-election, and I did. But when I did, my political opponents got a hold of that first wild sex series that I did, which had nothing to do with human sex, by the way. Like so dumb. But this is what happened, guys. Like this has been my reality. They used that series and they sort of spun that series in my intros and outros, where I would have a hook, like I very much talked to you about in this class. And they manipulated that to make it seem like I was a stripper and a porn star here in Chilliwack. And it's funny that I teach science communication and I teach aspects of pseudoscience and misinformation and the spread of malicious misinformation. And my entire life became an example of that. So this happened, when I first ran for the school board trustee seat. I won the election anyway. And I don't think it was because people knew I wasn't a stripper. I think that people really didn't like what had happened. I mean, it was kind of well known because it was happening and it was just such a dumb situation. And I think people just really did not like that a woman political candidate got treated like that right out the gate. So I got that seat and I've, been on the school board in Chilliwack since. I ran again after that. Anyway, the people who created this sort of new name for me also wanted to stay on the school board and so I kind of just had to be really smart about how I went about my life. And I'm telling you guys this story because it is so strange and it's really still something that's tricky for me to get my mind around because I teach this stuff. Like I teach how to we authentically see each other's work and to be taken so out of context in such a malicious way was just it really shook me. Anyway, so I waited, or at least I bided my time until I knew I could action on something. And a few years after this treatment of me began, one of them well, it was a new election cycle. One of them went on a talk show and described me as a striptease artist. And because he had done that, a very clean, as it were, very clean example of him calling me that on in a public forum, I was able to use I'm like, oh, there it is. There it is. Ding ding ding. And I sued him on that and I won. Because, hello, that's not right. Now, this sucked. Like, it was not great. And unfortunately, this is where we are. Unfortunately, guys, this is where we are in society these days. And I'm really proud that I stood up for what was right. I'm proud that I stood up for my work. I am proud, like, to be an example of someone who is, been through this and who can come out the other side. I think it's important to know for young science communicators to know that you don't have to change your topics or your subject matter or anything you're talking about because you're afraid of what people might say about you. And I know that that does come up for young science communicators. We're gonna get there. As far as this is just malicious treatment, right? It's a and it doesn't come across well for the people who are doing it, in my view. It wasn't great, but it's something that the world's bringing to us, and so I do actually feel like my own example of being a like a victim of pseudoscience, it really kind of solidifies my position of teaching this course. I like, in an odd way, I like that my whole life got turned into an example of pseudoscience because it makes me an even stronger instructor in that regard. And being the entertainer that I am, I made it into a musical. And I wrote a show about it, and I performed that show in Chilliwack this past spring. And I think I will probably keep doing that show. I love the show. And I think it's a good it's an intelligent, yeah, tongue-in-cheek though, way of making, yes, making light of the situation, but also bringing the situation forward. Because I'm pretty sure I am not the first and I will not be the last to have experienced this. It's pretty common, actually, as you read in your text. My my approach, I guess, or my personal attachment to this issue is different than sort of experiencing a climate disaster or some kind of, medical challenge. My my experience in pseudoscience is just directly, it's motivated by malice and motivated by political malice. Yeah. So interesting. And maybe you hadn't considered that, but that's yippee skippy for reality. And yeah, that is my experience in pseudoscience. Guys, I'm apologize because I am very sick today and I'm probably not making a lot of sense. But I do appreciate that a lot of you brought that up in your chapter summaries, and you may not have actually thought about that angle, which is why I kind of wanted to bring it up. Now, where does my situation stand? It doesn't stand in a great place, I'm afraid. I won my defamation lawsuit and that's, for me, that's the big one. I wanted to get it into case law because the political scene in the Fraser Valley could use a little work. And I do think that it has made a difference in that regard. Has it made my life better? I, I guess the jury's out on that. And I certainly financially, um, oddly, it was expensive to sue. And even though he was supposed to pay a settlement back to me when I won, he did not do that. Anyway, so there's all kinds of like, did we win? What was the win there? The win for me is that the right thing happened in the court, right? So the correct result came through the court, and that's all that I can do. That's all that I can do, and I honestly do feel like my life meant something in terms of being able to stand up to that kind of maliciousness, and maybe that'll set the tone for more women or people, right? More people of color, transgender people, homosexual people, anybody it seems weird that diversity is under, well, it doesn't seem weird. It's sad that diversity is under attack. Okay, guys, that was a little bit of a PSA. It's officially class time in 4 minutes, so I'm going to keep my Zoom office open, and maybe some of you will be coming on by. We are moving forward. I'll do another video about that, but we're moving forward and we're going to be doing our interviews in the next 3 weeks or so. So we're going to be solidifying that coming up. Okay, thanks guys. Stopping the recording for now.